certainly reacting to what happened after it. Travis KELCE, we know, was a non-factor in a Super Bowl that was never in doubt for the Eagles. KELCE, 35, speaking to his brother Jason on their New Heights podcast about whether he'll return to the Chiefs for a 13th season. Listen.
I know everybody wants to know whether or not I'm playing next year, and right now I'm just kicking everything down the road. The fact that we keep going to these AFC championships and these Super Bowls, and that process can be grueling. It can weigh on you. It can make you better, and it can drive you crazy at the same time. And right now, it's one of those things where it was kind of driving me crazy this year. As you see yourself or not feel yourself have the success that you once used to have, man, it's a tough pill to swallow. And then on top of that, to not be there in the biggest moments, knowing your team's counting on you, man. Those are all extremely hard things to. It's just a tough reality.
Well, big ups for the remarks. They were transparent. They were honest. As we say hello to our football brain trust, Louis Riddick is here. Harry Douglas is here. But I'm going to start with you, Stephen A. Should Travis KELCE call it quits?
I'm going to say no. Obviously, I'm going to defer to Harry and Louis on the football side because they've forgotten more stuff than I know about this game. But I will tell you, I know Travis KELCE a little bit, and I got a lot of love for the brother. And I think that, it's a real hard time for him right now because after having, 7 of 8 targets, 117 yards in the divisional playoff game against the Houston Texans, in the AFC Championship game, and the Super Bowl combined, 6 catches out of 10 targets for 58 yards and no touchdowns. That's not the Travis KELCE we know and love. So obviously people will look at that and they will see precipitous slippage. He's the first to say that as well, where he's wondering about himself and whether or not he is what he used to be or accepting the fact that he's not. I would also remind y'all that in the Wall Street Journal in November of 2023, if I remember correctly, he had confessed that he's had about 10 surgeries over the years. And so you got to wonder about the toll that it's taken on his body. I understand that. But I will say that I think that the Super Bowl performance is not something that should really hinder him. Guys, if you remember, on at least three or four occasions, he had to block, and obviously Josh Sweat just went right by him and got nearly 2 sacks on with him trying to help. You can't judge his Super Bowl appearance too harshly because Patrick Mahomes didn't have any time to throw. He didn't have any time to see whether or not anybody was open. They were all over him, and they dropped 7 in the secondary. Most teams can't rush 4 and drop 7 cats in the secondary and not worry about a damn thing in terms of getting to the quarterback. Most teams have to worry about something more than that. So that definitely was an aberration. I guess the reason why I would lean towards him not retiring, fellas, is that I think when you're a 3-time champion, when you're as elite as he is, a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer in the future, you don't want to go out like that. The way that they went out in this particular Super Bowl. You might want to sit up there and say, this is going to be it for me next season and call it a career. But you don't want to go out the way that they went out Sunday. Your career has been too illustrious, and there's still so much more football around you, meaning the pieces that they have around. Kansas City's not going anywhere. They're still going to be able to contend. You don't want to go out the way. I don't know if he could live with himself calling it a career if Sunday was the very, very last football game he ever played. That's why I say what I say about that, guys.
Louis?
Yeah, Stephen A., the only reason why I even answered that he should consider retiring is simply because of the fact that he's the one who brought it up. He's the one who initiated the conversation. It's not like Kansas City. It's not like Brett Veach. It's not the general manager. It's not like Andy Reid or any of the local media or the national media were saying Travis should consider retirement. Travis said Travis should really step back now and kick everything down the road because, as he said, there is a hard reality starting to slip in that is both subjective in nature, meaning like he's just kind of thinking about how do I look out here? How do I feel? What's my commitment? Why couldn't I juice up my football team in the biggest of moments? Why couldn't I find those open zone holes? Why couldn't I be a difference maker? Why couldn't I be a difference maker on the biggest stage? And that to me sounds like a guy who is feeling as though, one, physically, I don't know if I can still get those kinds of things done on a regular basis. And 2, and most importantly, I don't know if I want to commit myself and put in that work and that grind that will allow me to be able to be that guy in the future going forward. Because I'll tell you what, next year, it's going to be a grind for this football team. It's going to require an uncommon, kind of almost like a reestablishing of the commitment and a real, a real level of introspection on this entire organization to say, hey, look, we were on the verge of three-peating, and we didn't lose a one-score game. We got demolished, especially on the side of the football that has come synonymous with Kansas City football. And why did that happen? We can't just go, oh, you know what, it was just a bad day. We'll be right back on it. We're going to win the West. We're going to win the AFC. No, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. There's going to be some hard conversations had in that building. And one of the conversations probably will surround Travis KELCE. Look, Travis deserves all the respect in the world. He deserves to really almost like write his own ticket as far as how he wants to end his career. While at the same time, you have to look at this from a business perspective, and business is cruel in the NFL, and it's cruel to everybody by and large. Travis is going to be 36. He's coming off of his worst season of his career in terms of catches, yards per catch, yardage,
touchdowns,
and touchdowns, and receiving touchdowns, and so now, and he's questioning himself, whether or not that commitment, especially given how Patrick's going to commit himself this offseason. I promise you, Andy Reid's going to look at everything that happened in that Super Bowl this offseason. Brett Veach is going to look at everything this offseason. They're going to need to retool this football team and really get it reinforced so they don't have that kind of embarrassment again. And he has to really decide himself whether or not, I think it's really about that commitment, man, and is it worth it or not at this point to him. And look, I hope he plays simply because I'm selfish and the guy is like an all-time great, if not the greatest at the tight end position, and there'll be plenty of debates about that. But the fact that he's already considering it leads me to believe that we're probably further along towards doing that than coming back.
I'm with you, Louis. I think the thing that struck me the most was him just being very honest about the fact that everyone just expects they'll figure it out, right? Like the offense can be bad, but they'll just figure this thing out, and they were unable to do that in the Super Bowl. Harry, where are you at with this? Should he hang the cleats up?
Yeah, so I thought Lewis brought up a great point. It's not like we're in the media trying to force Travis KELCE to retire. When you sit there on a podcast with your brother, who a lot of us have a ton of respect for, and you bring these things up, it has to be a conversation. That's why we're talking about it right now on First Take. And Lewis, you understand this, right? When it comes to the game of football, the commitment that you just mentioned is everything. You're around your teammates more so than you are your family. And if you have kids, more so than you are your kids. You're getting up at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning. You're not getting back home till 7:30, 8 p.m. at night. So it's a constant and a consistent grind from the offseason to training camp throughout the season. I'll also bring this up, too. Travis KELCE gave all of us a fantastic 11 years of playing the game of football at a high level. I would also mention, from a postseason standpoint, he has played 25 extra games. That's a season and a half, y'all. That's a toll in itself alone, and that's what he's alluding to with this brother. And I would also say this, and I can, relate to him on this level because I have a brother who played a professional sport in the NBA for 8 or 9 years. When you have a brother in Jason KELCE that you can lean on and talk to about any and everything, and have someone that can relate to you on all fronts when no one else can, that's also a motivating factor to sit it down, because your brother just did it the year before. And you no longer have to worry about if your body's feeling good when you wake up in the morning times. But when you look at Travis KELCE from a output standpoint and his numbers, from 2020, 2021, 2022, from a yards after catch standpoint, Travis KELCE was top 6 every single year. 2 of those years he was second and third. This past season, you didn't see the same production. Now, we also have the luxury of saying Travis KELCE having a bad season is 823 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns.